We're at St. Mary's Catholic Church here in Hot Springs, 100 Whittington Avenue. We're here with a lot of first responders, and the church is feeding everybody in honor of their service to the community. And we want to thank Dayton Myers and Hans Piercott, and also Father George, and all of the folks that made this possible today. They're sending meals out to first responders in the field who couldn't come in. And they're also providing all of us here with outstanding breakfast. We also had a service this morning to commemorate 9/11 and to memorialize those that died during the attack on the World Trade Centers. It was a very, very nice service, very fitting for the moment. This evening at 7 o'clock, we'll be doing a procession of first responders down Central Avenue. We'll have first responders from law enforcement, EMS, and fire who will be displaying their apparatus and walking the parade route. They'll be giving away everything from candy to rubber bracelets, things like that, all kinds of neat stuff. So bring your kids out and let them mingle with the first responders and see their equipment. And just a nice way for the community and the first responders to get together today.
I can remember very vividly where I was at on 9/11. I was assigned as a school resource officer at Hot Springs High School. And, I remember walking by their library and looking at a TV and seeing the planes hit the towers. And I remember thinking, and I remember standing there almost just in awe for a couple hours while the scenes played out. That evening, I went back home, and I remember thinking and telling my family that 9/11. Our world is going to be completely different now, and there's going to be a change. And it was a very devastating incident to all Americans. And but the thing is, after this devastation, we came together as a country, and I believe that we are a lot stronger now than what we were before.
I was at the firehouse. We were about to go into our morning meeting whenever the first plane hit the tower. It was a very surreal moment. It was even worse whenever the first tower collapsed. To see those folks riding that tower down to the ground to their death was very heart-wrenching, and it was a very, very sad moment.
About 5 months ago, we had a little get-together and talked about what we can do on charity for the community, the Knights of Columbus and the Squires. The Squires, they are the male youth of the Knights of Columbus. And he mentioned, well, you do all kinds of charity, why don't you do something for the first responders? And as soon as he said this, there was no more debate, it was done. Then the question came up, how do we finance it? Well, about 3 months ago in June, the Knights of Columbus had their charity golf tournament in the Glade. And you will not believe it, a 14-year-old had a basket of 10 bottles of booze, excellent spirits, wine and whiskey, gin, and he auctioned this off. Not auctioned, he raffled this off. He netted $800 for this, and he came to me and says, Hans, here are $800 for seed money for this 9/11. May I introduce to you Dayton Myers, the guy who sparked all of this.
There's just a few of you guys here right now, first responders at this table right here, but I'm going to go ahead and give my speech because we're on a tight agenda schedule fixing to be coming up. Good morning. I'm glad that so many of our wonderful men and women of our Garland County first responders could be here and will continue to fill in. 9/11/2011 is a day that will live in infamy. 2,978 innocent people lost their lives that day. That tragedy became the deadliest event for law enforcement and law enforcement and firemen in the history of the United States, in which 343 firefighters and 72 law enforcement gave their lives in service to others. I have no doubts that if, God forbid, an attack was to happen right here in Arkansas, every single first responder in Garland County would do just as the first responders did in New York. Just a week ago, Hot Springs proved the patriotism and country unity it had when our city manager and police chief Stacy took a pallet of water to Beaumont, Texas to give to the victims of Hurricane Harvey. Tonight at the parade we have at 7, members of the Knights of Columbus will be collecting money for parade goers to send to the relief for the Hurricanes Harvey and Irma. In this time of crisis, for the citizens of southeastern Texas and in Florida, they need all the help that they can get. In about an hour, we will pray in remembrance of the collapse of the towers collapsing 16 years ago. We will pray for the safety of our local first responders in their different lines of work and for God to protect each of them every day. We decided to do this event so that every first responder in Hot Springs could take a short break from life and have a nice social breakfast. You deserve to be honored for the work you do for our community. I want for each and every first responder to know that they are appreciated. You are the ones risking your lives every day to protect the rest of us. You selflessly defend the freedoms we have as Americans and that make our country the greatest on earth. People say a bunch of different things that include the phrase, lives matter. Well, I have one that should be the only phrase that people say, and that is that all lives matter. Every single life from conception to natural death has meaning and worth. I want to thank each first responder in Garland County for protecting our county and for the service you have given to our county and to our country. I want you guys to know something. You are heroes.
Well, how about this? This guy is 14 years old. And people say the youth of America is spoiled and we will lose America because of our youth. Not with this type of young man we have grown up. Thank you. Well, now is my turn, I guess. And I want to apologize right from the beginning if some of you don't understand my Northwestern dialect. Don't worry about this. I got it in writing. You can just ask me, give it to me, then I can understand it. Well, the Northwestern is not Northwest the United States, you Southerners. This is Germany. Well, welcome first responders, friends, brother knights, and especially ladies of Mary who made this hall, great. Thank you. All of us, and most Americans, recognize that September 11, 2001 forever changed our world. Just as December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor Day, defined earlier generations. September 11, 2001 has determined how many of us both live our daily lives and focus on the world around us. But unlike Pearl Harbor, in which one nation attacked our military installation in 2001, a small group of terrorists, not operating under the flag of any nation, successfully ambushed thousands of unsuspecting innocent American civilians. On September 11, 2001, at 7:46 hours, few of us were doing anything out of the ordinary. It was a typical Tuesday morning. Our country held no hostility toward other nations. Our government was working to peacefully coexist with the world. Our people were simply going about their daily routines. Everyone was busy earning a living and creating a better life for their families. What continues to shock us today is not the terrorist methods used at the on our country on 9/11. Today, our shock remains because 9/11 was an attack on our way of life, and this attack continues today. The United States of America is the most desirable place on this planet to live, and I know it firsthand. Not for our oceans, plains, not for our mountains and rivers, not for our cars, homes, jobs, and technology, but for our freedoms. Our freedom and our safety that continues to be closely guarded by our first responders, many of whom can be with us this morning. These wonderful Americans who remain ready at this very moment to run toward our dangers to protect both our freedoms and our lives. The best example of how they respond to hurricanes in Texas and Florida. Well, it was amazing what you guys did. So here we are this morning in Garland County, Arkansas, 16 years after September 11, 2001. We realize there's no words, no ceremony, no plaques, no tears will ever replace our country losses that occurred on 9/11, 2001. Losses that include 45 Knights of Columbus who were killed in the attack. This were 11 firefighters, 6 policemen, and 28 civilians. Please cherish this event like this one that provide us the time to come together to pray for and remember our losses, and an opportunity to honor the courage and dedication service of today's first responders. We continue to stand at the ready to rush forward to danger and keep us safe in our city and county. Thanks for being here this morning to join in honoring and thanking our Garland County first responders. And God bless them, keep our first responders safe. God bless America. Thank you. Well, I think we have some chiefs here. Well, I don't see any, but I've seen our mayor, Pat McCabe. Maybe he wants to say a word or two, maybe 10. Sure.
Certainly like to welcome each of you here today. I also want to thank St. John's and St. Mary's for sponsoring this special breakfast. You know, in the world today, we certainly have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of distractions, and at times we lose focus on what is important. At the end of the day, when things are the toughest, when the sky's the darkest, when we see that there's little hope, those who protect us, who provide public safety, the police, law enforcement of all branches, all kinds, firefighters, first responders, they are always there to save the day. And we owe you a debt of gratitude and our deepest appreciation for what you do every day. You never know what you're going to walk into when your day starts or when your day ends, or even when your day is ended, you may be called back. A few weeks ago, we had a freedom of speech activity down at the National Park, and Chief Stacy and his staff and the whole community of law enforcement, public safety officials, from many levels of government rallied and made that day safe for everybody. Some say it was perhaps a non-event. I think it was a non-event because of the preparation of the leadership of our law enforcement community, the coordination amongst many agencies that ensured that public safety was going to be at its best. I know that all elected officials within our community recognize and appreciate your sacrifices. I know Judge Davis as well, our county judge, all the members of the quorum court, the city board, our state representatives, our state senators, all share in appreciation for what you do each and every day. And all I can say is, be careful in what you do. We have your back each and every day. We are greatly supportive, but mostly we are so appreciative of each and every one of you in your daily duties. Thank you again.
Now I'd like to introduce two of the people who were most helpful getting all of this together. Father George and Father YC. Well, Father George and Father YC, if you want to come up here and say a couple of words, you're most unwelcome. But I know you are shy and you hardly speak anyhow.
Well, as a parish, Hans, we want to thank you for all your hard work and everyone that has joined with us here. It's something that seems like we've done for many years before, to honor our first responders, those that are on the line for us, each and every day. And so I just think it's so appropriate. And what a wonderful day to have that on 9/11. They remember the heroic efforts of all of our first responders. So we at St. Mary's are just very pleased to come together. It's very fitting, very natural, what we should be doing all along. So this is our first annual celebration for our first responders, to honor each and every one of them. All of our first responders, our EMTs and our paramedics, our police, our deputies, our sheriffs, our park rangers, all of our first responders. We want to make sure to honor them for what they do for us each and every day. So thank you so much for coming.
Yes, Father George and Father YC were the reason that one of the reasons this has been happening, because they were the ones who allowed us to fundraise to pay for the cost of this. Now we're finished with everything that's going to happen for right now. The next thing that will go on is the prayer service, so you guys are welcome to continue eating breakfast.
Well, sometimes the youth is wrong. Well, as you probably heard out of my slightly accent I got, I am not from here. I am a German. Excuse me, I am an American. But originally I was German. And let me tell you a little story what happened to me and the first responders about 42 or 52 years ago in Germany. I am born in 1940, in the middle of the war. I don't remember a lot from this. All I remember is that at the age of 3, I had to join the Hitler Youth, where we was trained, the kids were trained, where we see a uniform like yours or anybody else's, to click our heels together, raise the hand 45 degrees, and holler Heil to this idiot who was our Führer. Well, this was drilled into us. In 1945, at the end of the war, Russians came into our little town where I live. This is about 40 miles east of Frankfurt on the Oder River, which is now Poland. They came in, and at night I jumped out of bed and raised my hand and was hollering this, what I got trained for, and I almost got shot. Lucky enough, there was a lieutenant who spoke German and kept him obeyed, so that's why I'm alive. About June the Russians came back and we were in church, and right after the church, they got us together and marched us out of town. Lucky enough, my mother had a baby carriage where my little sister was in. She was 8 months old. And they marched everyone, the whole town. They held it together and marched them out of my town where I was living. Well, we didn't have anything to eat alone. We marched the whole day and half of the night to Frankfurt on the Oder River, where we stayed overnight. The next day they marched us further on, and I don't know where, nothing to eat. My mother had a little baby, and we seen some Russians in the field milking cows. I went to the Russians and asked if they have a little bit milk for my little sister. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. They told me, well, you bastard, go to Hitler, let him feed you. Well, we kept on, and in the evening we arrived at a railroad station where we were herded into cattle cars and stayed there over the night, and during the day we moved, and I didn't know where, nobody did, but we ended up in Berlin on the Seoul station, which was the American sector. We got out. This was the first time that we got fed in 3 or 4 days. Good meal by the Americans. We didn't see any uniforms, but all kinds of civilians were there. We were divided into 3 groups. One for the American sector, one for the French, and one for the English sector. I was lucky to get into the American sector. And other piece of luck was we was living, or were giving a one-room apartment in one apartment which some of my relatives owned in Berlin, or was living in. We had a 2-bedroom apartment, and we got one. The life was hard. We had to look for food every day, and very hard to find. Berlin had about 5 million people living there. From this 5 million, there were about 3 million refugees. We was living on the street, where across was a big field full with tanks, cars, and so on. For us kids, it was paradise to play in, but still nothing to eat. One day, an American column came along the street, and I was standing in the front of my house. A soldier, I think it was a black soldier, came out of the column, came over to me, talked to me. I couldn't understand him. He took me on his arm, put me on his shoulder, and went back to the column. My mother was upstairs in the window looking out, and she was screaming, "Leave my son here, leave my son here." And he turned around in broken German, "I bring him back." Well, now the story starts where I get quite emotional. I tell the story for the past 40 years, and very seldom I can do this without getting tears in my eyes. The barracks where the soldiers were living was about a mile away. He had me on the shoulder. We went into the room where they had very cleaned up. I don't know the name of it, but they're very cleaned up. And he talked to a different soldier, and they took me on his hand and got in a different room where they had bathtubs. They gave me a bath, cut my hair, and then they came back and he had a handful of clothes, new clothes. Everything, underwear, shoes, socks, shirts, jackets. He clothed me. Once I was clothed, he took me into the mess hall and fed me. The things I never have seen. Chocolate, hot chocolate. Never seen, never tasted it. This was great. Well, and he had already a big backpack full of stuff, which when we were done, he put it on his shoulder, put me on top of his shoulder and said, well, let's go home. We went back to my house where I was living. He knocked on the door of the apartment. My mother came out. He gave me, he said, here's your son. And he gave her the backpack he had. He gave the whole backpack and says, Auf Wiedersehen. The backpack was full of food. White bread, never seen it. Honey, butter, coffee. Not this cheap stuff which we had made out of grain. That was real coffee. My mother said, I've never seen things like this. Well, it was great. And right then, the same day, I told my mother, a week ago, I got told I'm a German bastard and I should go to Hitler to get fed. And here, the enemies of our nation took the son of a Nazi, fed him close to him. There we go. I said at this time, this nation I didn't know about, I want to live. 23 years later, I jumped off the boat in Chicago. I am here. I am not a German, not a European German. I am an American. Thank you.